Welcome back to Open Line. We are talking about learning and learning loss and what our kids deserve in their education with Nashville PROPEL. Two wonderful guests joining me tonight, Sonya Thomas and John Little with the organization. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I do want to get to one of our Facebook commenters. Eric had a great question. He said, as it pertains to the individualized learning plans, he said, how is this even possible with teachers being overworked already? How could they also do this?
Yeah, I'll go first. And then I know Sonya wants to comment on it. And Eric, this is what I would say. Looking at a student who walks across the stage and receives their diploma and goes out into the workforce and can't read, can't write, is just as much, if not more, of a disservice. So this is not anti-teacher. With myself working in schools, we know teachers have a difficult job, but we also have to have balance. And if you have balance, you can't have great teachers with students who are not ready for the world. As we look at Nashville, as we look at our country, we need students to be college, career, and community ready. And so this is not more work on the teachers. This is just to make sure, in my opinion, we have a balance, because it's hard to look at a kid who walks across the stage and receives a diploma that isn't worth anything because they don't have the skills in order to be productive citizens.
All right, Sonya, what do you have to say to that?
That is a great question. We actually that this is going to make it easier on teachers in the long run. We love great educators, and we actually worked on this project with some great educators. And all we're asking is we not look at children as struggles, but children as visions. And I think it's been a disservice that teachers don't have information. They may get a second grader from first grade and may not know anything about that child. We have CUNY files stuck in drawers and information about children all over the place. So just imagine how much easier it would be to have the information you need about how that child has done in the past, from kindergarten through 12, and know how they're doing and be able to plan and do your class planning. I mean, teachers have planning hours during the day. Just imagine being able to be efficient and truly plan and have a plan, student plan around your classroom. We think that this is going to make it easier.
What I hear you saying is that maybe some of the tools that we're using now, we could kind of push those aside and be done with them, and let's find a cumulative one-stop shop to judge our child's, not to judge, but to track our child's progress.
And we kind of already do it. You know, when I was attending school, I went to Stratford High here in East Nashville, and we had a vocational track and we had a university track. And whatever track you signed up for, we supported you. If you were on the university track, you were not taking auto mechanics. And if you were in the vocational track, you were not taking courses that focused on collegiate education. And so we have already been doing it, but we're really focusing on the kids. Again, as we have kids, we have nieces, nephews, neighbors. We just want the best for kids.
So tell me more about this individualized learning plan that you all have structured and come up with, and you all have turned over to Metro and said something like this, perhaps. Give me an idea of what it looks like.
What the district has done is what I call a resource bank, where they've taken all the data and put it into a bank, the campus, which is great. That's great. We need that. The parents need that. The teachers need that. The district needs it, the state needs it. What is missing is identifying the students' goals, their interests, and making sure that we identify their strengths and their weaknesses and putting a plan around that. And then also identifying the appropriate supports that they need. It's not about a dashboard or resource bank, it's about the child. So the data that they're wanting to provide is great. So if a child has, they're struggling in literacy, how are we going to do it? And who is going to do it? Who is going to help this child to get to grade level in reading and beyond? We're not seeing that. So we're not seeing the student goals. We're not seeing the information that needed to put supports and how they will be supported and who will be supporting them. And we're not seeing the collaboration and the partnership with parents to make sure that it's happening at home and it's happening in school. And we're not talking about a resource bank or a Khan Academy link. We're talking about actually looking at that child as a vision and putting goals, priorities, strategies, and tactics around that.
For example, what I hear you saying is that, my child, my second grader, is taking the TN Ready test this week. And I know that next fall we'll get those test scores. And, we'll say he's in this percentile for reading and this percentile for math. But that's really about as far as we know it goes. I say, okay, well, you're better at math than you are in reading. Okay, you're at grade level or not or whatever. And you're saying, let's take it a step forward. Let's say this child needs help in reading, and here's what we're going to do to bring them up.
Yeah. And Sonya, can I talk about the framework?
Example, real quick, John. So you just talked about your child in reading. So for example, by the end of the academic year, Carrie's son will have made blank progress in growth in reading, math, and science to move him closer to grade level benchmarks. We're talking that specific. And we want to get him there.
And maybe that the ways to do that are he's pulled out once a week or twice a week for individual tutoring or whatever, which they do at our schools. So that's what you're looking to see.
Yeah, and I would say for one, we already have individual or personalized learning plans for gifted students, right?
Yeah.
It's called Encore. For students who may have a learning disability, we have IEPs, which a lot of parents know, where we're saying the 80% of other students, like, how do we track that? And so the framework, let me take a step back. The framework says they're going to identify where you are academically when we talk about literacy, but they also look at TN Ready. They also look at your MAP scores and your ACT. They also look at behavior, whether you have been skipping school or you gotten in trouble. So that goes into the framework. They also look at if you've been skipping school or you have a lot of absences. And so as a mom, as a father, you get this and you say, okay, Lil John is killing it in reading, but Lil John needs serious support in math, but also Lil John is missing a lot of school. And so once we see the report, what we're asking for is a plan, as a partnership, as Sonya said. How do we address that? If he's missing so many days of school, how does Sonya, the principal, and John, the parent, come together to support little John?
And one thing when I was reading over your plan that I liked, and I think this is skipped over a lot, in any industry does this. They use industry lingo, and if you're not in that industry, you don't understand it. Because that's not my industry. I can throw you out my lingo, you can throw me out your lingo, but it's like, what? And that's one thing you all address. This needs to be understandable.
It needs to be understandable. It needs to be in a written, electronic platform. There needs to be some accountability. There needs to be a staffing and management plan. There needs to be a district-wide implementation plan. Because this district, let's just be candid and honest, has trouble with implementation. There's some great ideas, right? You can have a great idea, but if you're having trouble with implementing the ideas, then it's just an idea.
Why does this district have problems with implementation?
One of the things that as a leader and myself, that I think is very important is ownership. As a leader for this organization, I take ownership for everything that happens. As a leader in my home, I take ownership for everything that happens. And what I'm not seeing is the ownership. I see a dashboard with links related to MAP scores to say go to an academy. Well, that puts the onus only on the parent and the child who in the first place may be struggling with knowing what to do. And so now we're gonna send them to a video. Do you know how many videos I cried off of trying to help my son? Do you know how he struggled, and I went to Khan Academy and I myself struggled. And we were both crying in the house, and then I had everybody in the house crying. another, resource hub or a bank. We need a plan. We need to know who, what, how, and when.
Yeah, and just to humanize it also, like it's so easy to lump 80,000 plus children into one piece of paper and say we have a large system, but it's another thing to think about your own kids. And when I think about most educators and I think about most people on the board, everybody practices choice. I had a message from a parent and he wanted to get rid of the magnet school system. And he said, I want to get rid of the magnet school system because it's racist, right? As a white man, he was like, it cherry picks the best kids academically and puts them at one school, right? But do you know where he sends his kid? To a magnet school. And for him, I don't fault him for that. He says that I hate this system, but in order for my kid to be the best, they have to go to this magnet school, even though I'm fighting against it. So if you have parents who are fighting on a high level to end a program, but still sending their kids there, you only got to think about the 80% of other kids, Black, brown, and poor kids around Nashville, who we also need to be fighting for, who also need a voice. And really, that's who I want to hear from. I want to hear from the parents who want to make a change, the parents who realize that something may not be right and they want to speak up about it and be part of the system that changes it for their kids and for our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going to take another commercial break. I want to invite people to call in and be part of this conversation. We are talking about learning loss and what to do about it. Go ahead and give us a call, 615-737-PLUS. We're back after this.